So, as you know, Jace has been living with me for about a year now, just over a year. I think it was May, maybe June last year. And I don't know if I call it a bombshell, but she's been talking about it for a while now. But she's moving to Brighton, which is weird because I think if she was still living at her mum's,
you wouldn't have thought about it.
I wouldn't really have thought about it, but because she's been living with us, not you and I, but with Kay and
with
I,
you.
me and Kay, it's a bit odd, and there is some relevance to business here, and I'll get to it in a moment. But I think what's quite interesting is so herself and her boyfriend and a friend of theirs from the pub. So she worked in a pub up the road currently. They've decided to move to Brighton on the whim of, based on I think 2 visits down there now. And she's been with the boyfriend 4 months, I think, at the most. And the friend is a friend, fine, nice guy. Oh, I'm not talking about boyfriend. I'm sure he's lovely, but I haven't really met him to get to know him, and I'm sure he's very nice. But it was just thinking about, she's going off to Brighton. The 3 of them are going to get a flat together. And the dad in me went, "What the are you doing?" I didn't say it out loud. I was very good. You've been proud of me. I've just been like, okay, that's cool. So I found out last week that all 3 of them have handed in their notice, and this is happening. And I had a conversation with her, and she's really excited about it, looking forward to it. They're being quite sensible. They've taken the first week that they're off. What they've done is they've rented a B&B. The 3 of them are going to go down there, and they're going to find a flat in that week, and just going to spend the whole week intensively house hunting, which is smart. All 3 of them are in hospitality. They'll get work, like that. I'm not actually that worried about that. The bit I think that I'm bothered about is the whole boyfriend thing, because, at nearly 20, we've all done it. How long's that going to last? Let's not go there. But it started me thinking about, she's just taking this, in my mind, quite a big risk. But to her, it's just, I don't know, an adventure.
Yep.
It's just the next step in her life's journey.
Yep.
And I look back and I reflect on when I was her age. The hypocrite in me has to say I moved out of home the day after my 18th birthday with my girlfriend at the time and a friend who's still a friend. She's not. So
okay.
So there's lots of parallels there, and I remember how that worked out, and it was fine. But I didn't move to a completely new city. I moved a mile down the road, that kind of thing. But it did get me thinking about from how do I for myself manage the risk in my own head. And what I've decided really is that, despite my desire to, I'm not going to rent her room out, because at some point there is a possibility, I was going to say probability, but I'll go with possibility, she may need somewhere to come back to. And I just thought, well, look, she's not putting any risk management at all. She's just like, well, whatever, reminds me of somebody, and is just going off and doing her thing, which is fine. So I kind of have to take that responsibility for her as a responsible adult. Maybe I don't. Maybe people will go, what, just let it go, who cares, kind of thing. But I can't not do that. And the thing I wanted to talk about is how many of us are faced with opportunities in our business. And some people just go, oh yeah, I'm off. I'm just going to go down this rabbit hole and see where it takes me. And others go, I'm not doing that. Not doing that. And others have maybe got people in their team who go, well, you can do it, but what if? I just would welcome your, I don't need dad counselling. I just welcome your thoughts on that, from a business perspective, that principle of managing risk when you're taking a risk? How do you put in place? And I've got a couple of ideas, but how do you put in place a structure so that when you go off and TriPast is new, you manage what's the worst that happens?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, some of it is going to depend on your personal risk appetite, and in the same way that some people are willing to invest in stocks and shares, and other people that's way too risky for them and they want to, I don't know, premium bonds or something, and some people just want money in cash underneath their mattress. Everyone's somewhere on that scale.
Yeah.
And, you know, like all scales, you'll have some people at a far end, some people at a super conservative end, and most people fall somewhere in the middle. So that's obviously a driver of how much risk somebody is willing to take in the first place. In terms of if you've decided to take a risk in your business, I guess it depends on what that risk is. You know, are you taking a sabbatical and parking the business and going off and doing something crazy, or trying something new? Or is it a managed risk within your business that you think, well, actually, I think there might be something here, I don't know, a new product line or something, or a new service that you can offer, but it's not something you've ever done before. You're not quite sure whether your customers are going to like it or not. There's different types of risks in there. And so, you know, I hate to say it, but it comes back to planning of how much do you need your business? Like if you decide to park your business for 3 months while you go and, I don't know, backpack around the world, there's a risk that your business won't be there when you get back because your customers have moved on. It might not happen, and chances are it probably won't, but it is a risk that it might happen. Are you okay with that? You know, and if you're not, what do you do to manage that risk? And it might be that you get somebody to manage your business while you're away. It might be that you decide actually you're going to close your business down and, you know, liquidate your assets and start up something new when you get back. There's all sorts of different paths you could take. I guess the big thing that kind of sticks out to me is some of this is to do with youth and experience, and kids who are, you know, 18 going off to uni, early 20s, whatever, in that kind of age bracket, are far less risk averse than people of your and my age.
We've got responsibilities.
Because we've got responsibilities.
Like children.
You know, Jace doesn't have any of that. You know, she hasn't got a home, she hasn't got a car, she's, you know, she doesn't have any outstanding debt that I know of anyway. You know, you know, so if it all goes tits up, she knows she can come back to you. She knows that.
Unless I rent a room out.
Well, yeah, but even if you did, you would let her sleep on the sofa.
Sure.
You know, you provide that soft landing in a way that somebody older doesn't always have.
So you've used an interesting term there, because I have conversations with clients fairly regularly about procrastinating over product launches. Yeah. For example, again, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And that term, soft landing, I think is a really, really a good one, really healthy one, because I think what people often do is they over plan for every eventuality, and by over planning for every eventuality, they convince themselves that the opportunity is outweighed by the risk, because they bring up all the things that could go wrong, and that becomes prevalent in their minds, and obviously that creates fear, and then, you know, more and more reasons not to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas I think there's an approach to take, which is just ignore all the detail, because I don't do detail, but go straight to what's the worst that happens.
Yeah.
And I think if you can sit down and answer that question, and if the worst that happens is something that you're able to either mitigate or control completely, then as long as the risk you're taking is outweighed by or the opportunity that you're taking outweighs the worst that happens scenario, then you should go for it, definitely. And even if the opportunity that you have isn't outweighed by it, but whatever the worst that happens is covered, then you should go for it. And anything in the middle, getting bogged down in the detail of everything that potentially could happen, is, I think of, is just not important enough. Because if you can think of the worst thing that happens and you're okay with that, then you should go for it.
Yeah.
So, coming back to this situation, my view very much is, you're right. The worst that happens is that she falls out with her boyfriend. She loses her job at the same time because maybe they're working in the same place. They can't pay the rent, and she has to come home.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that the worst that happens? No, because she might decide to stay there and battle it through, which would be admirable, but worrying for me, maybe not for her. So I've got to have a conversation with her around, okay, go and do this, but what are you going to do if the worst happens? And you need to know that you've got this soft landing in me and not be afraid to use it. And I think if we can ask those questions of ourselves and our teams in our businesses as well, we'd perhaps open ourselves up to more opportunities than we currently have, because we're not allowing the fear to get in the way. I think the other thing about the fear piece is fear comes from generally not knowing what will happen.
Yeah.
So we're afraid of the dark because we can't see anything, so we don't know what's in the room.
Yeah,
or
and
in
our
that
brain
space.
fills the gaps in.
Brain fills the gaps, exactly that. People are afraid of heights because they don't know what it's going to feel like if they hit the bottom, and your brain fills in the gaps. We all know it's probably going to hurt, but and so on and so forth. And I think that if you can actually sit down and articulate exactly what the worst case outcomes are, and put a plan together to mitigate those circumstances, and if as a business you can look at each other and go, do you know what, we're all right with that. We can handle that. We've got enough cash reserves, or we're going to take some of our cash reserves to put into this opportunity. So I was speaking to a client a couple of weeks ago, a mentoring client, and he basically is bored. He's got a great business, really cool. You'd love it. I'll talk to you about it off air. You'll think it's absolutely amazing. And it's a fabulous business. Quite young. Young, yeah, relatively young. Been doing it for a while, but he's getting itchy feet, and you can see it in everything that he does. And he's getting a little bit bogged down in all the stuff that he should be doing to be more of a business owner, and culture and values and building a team and all that sort of stuff. And he's just, I'm bored, and I've got all these things I want to do, but I've got a family now, mortgage, kids, I've got a nice lifestyle, and I want to risk all of that. So I suggested to him that what he does is because they're a very profitable business. So I said, well, why don't you take a percentage of your profits, say 8%, and I just pulled the number out of the air, not knowing his numbers, an amount that you wouldn't notice each month if you just trimmed it, okay, and put it into a risk fund, all right? And then all these ideas that you have, put them in an ideas fridge, so you put them in storage, and then every quarter, go to that ideas fridge, lay them all out on the table, okay, get all the ingredients out on the table, and just go, well, which sandwich as a team should we make? Which idea should we follow through with? Discuss the merits, which one excites you? And then give responsibility to a couple of team members and yourself to go ahead with that and put some budget to it from the risk fund. And he was like, oh my God, that's amazing. I can do all of these things that I want to do, and you've taken all the fear away. You've taken all the, what if it puts the business under danger? I mean, you could even set up a new company name in seconds, couldn't you, and trade under that and have a play with it. So but that all stemmed from, what are you afraid of? What's the worst that happens if you tried these things? And his answer was, I lose the business, and that impacts my life and my wife's life and my kids' life. okay, so what's the solution to the worst that happens?
Yeah.
Use money that isn't the business's, or that you've taken from the business that you can afford to create a separate fund.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about that, and then he sort of said, oh, I could use that money to invest in other people as well, couldn't I? And I'm like, yeah, because it's not your business's money, it's money that you've separated.
Yeah.
And so longer conversation went through it, and how he would do that, and so on and so forth. But I think it's a really interesting topic, this, because people get paralysed
Mm-hmm.
by the fear, if you like.
Yeah.
It's like action paralysis. I can't think of a better term, but because the fear is just so overwhelming in terms of thinking about everything.
But don't you think that people try and answer every possible fear, every possible outcome, and they don't want to take that risk, that step, until they've got the answer to all of those things, because that mitigates their fear? But in reality, you're never, very, very unlikely to ever have the answer to all of those things.
No. So go to the worst scenario.
Yeah.
And if you can answer that. And I think the other thing that's worth bearing in mind, I've got, and I can't remember if we talked about this before, I've got a very good friend of mine whose wife is a senior consultant oncologist, and they will share their days with each other. He runs his own business, and he'll talk about, oh, this has happened, that's happened, and she'll say, well, I had to tell somebody they were going to die within weeks, and this person's got months, and this person, we can cure them. And he always says to me, it doesn't matter what decision I have to make in my business, no one dies.
Yeah.
So compared to that, there's no risk.
But that's about perception, isn't it? One of my, and probably my all-time favourite quote comes from a song by a group called the Indigo Girls, which is, my uni days, slightly country, slightly indie. And my all-time favourite line in this song is, when you're learning to face the path at your pace, every choice is worth its while. But it comes from a bigger chorus, which I think is relevant here, and the first part of the chorus says, up on the watershed, standing at the fork in the road, you can stand there and agonise until agony's your heaviest load.
Brilliant.
And that's so true, as we sit and we agonise over these decisions, and, well, what if this happened? What if that happened? What if it was successful?
Well,
we don't sit there and say that, do we?
Yeah, and we've spoken about this before as well. We're predisposed to have a negative mindset because it protects us.
But even if the worst happens, even if, I don't know, Jace falls out with her boyfriend, loses her job, whatever, she's still going to gain something from that experience. She's going to learn a lesson that will go through life with her and shape decisions that she makes in the future. If she makes a mistake and she fails miserably, she won't hopefully make that mistake again.
Just different ones.
Different ones, but that's okay, because this is the whole thing about helicopter parenting, is that parents are stepping in so quick when their children are young to break up fights and stop bullying and help them with their homework, that the kids don't learn how to solve their own problems, and they don't learn good and bad decisions, and they don't learn from their mistakes. So then when they get into adult life, they either don't take risks, or they crash about like a rampant elephant, making blunders of everything, because they've never had the opportunity to actually try and fail and learn. And even as an adult, even if you've had that opportunity, if you try something and it goes tits up, you will still be okay. Even if you lose all your money, your house, your car, your business, whatever, and it sucks, you will be okay. Yeah. And I've been there, I haven't particularly lost my business, but I've had life, rug pulled out from underneath me on more than one occasion. And it sucks, and this, it sucks big time at the time, but you will be okay.
And arguably, I'm stronger.
Yes.
For it.
Yeah.
For those, I took risks, and did the worst happen that could happen? Yeah, probably. Mm-hmm. I mean, certainly at the time I couldn't think of anything worse.
Yeah.
but I am a far stronger, robust individual now because of that. And interestingly, it allows me to take more risks rather than fewer, because I kind of go, well, what's the worst that happens? Oh, I've had that.
So my second favourite quote of all time is that you have survived 100% of the days that you've lived so far. You have a 100% track record.
Like that.
And that's like, those two things are kind of almost life-defining for me, really, because,
Can you see why?
because they just apply to everything. And no matter how bad it gets, no matter how bad I've ballsed things up, and I've survived. And I've lived to tell the tale, and I've moved on and built my life up again, and you've done the same. And I've learnt stuff from that. I've learnt about who I am as a person. I've learnt what works and what doesn't work. I've learnt things that, you know, I can pass on to my kids and friends, and, you know, and you're doing the same in your business. You know, some of the things that you learnt by your previous business going tits up is part of what shapes your business now, your current business.
Completely. Yeah.
So mistakes and things going wrong, I think people fear them, but actually they can be great.
Yeah.
But you have to see them like that.
Yeah, and you have to welcome them and embrace them as lessons.
Well, you're allowed your 5-minute pity party, but then, but you know, then get up and move on. You know, it's not going to change if you sit there and cry about it for too long. But you know, we're all allowed our moment.
So for more empathetic counselling, tune in next week.
I'll let anyone have a pity party, but not for too long. No, but it's true. I mean, that's you know, that's my counselling for myself. You know, have your moment, but then, you know, get up, move on, because it's not going to change by sitting there, is it?
Was it Rocky Balboa says, it's not about how hard you get hit.
It's about whether you get up again.
How hard you get hit and keep moving forwards.
Yeah.
So, as always, what's your favourite quote? And what's your attitude towards risk?
How risk
averse
or
where do you sit on
keen
the
you
scale?
are,
Yeah, we'd love to know. Yeah.
And have you ever done something and it has gone badly wrong? Yeah, have you failed?
Yeah.
And what happened? Did you get back up? Did you use that lesson?